The year is 1503. In a villa outside Rome, a cardinal named Adriano Castellesi reclines at a dinner table. The summer heat is oppressive. Sweat beads on his forehead, but the wine is cold and sweet, and the company is prestigious. Seated across from him is Cesare Borgia, son of Pope Alexander VI, perhaps the most powerful and feared man in Italy. They are celebrating a new alliance, a political partnership that will benefit both men, or so the cardinal believes. The servants bring course after course, roasted meats, honeyed fruits, fresh bread. Everything tastes exquisite. The cardinal drinks deeply. The wine is exceptional, Falernian, aged for years, worth more than most men earn in a lifetime. He doesn't notice that Cesare barely touches his own cup. Doesn't notice that when the servants pour wine for the cardinal, they use a different pitcher than the one they used for Cesare. Doesn't notice the ring on Cesare's finger. A heavy gold ring with a hollow chamber and a tiny spring mechanism. A ring that, when positioned correctly over a wine cup and pressed, releases a single drop of clear liquid. A liquid that has no taste, no smell, no color. A liquid called la Cantarella. By morning, Cardinal Castellesi will be dead. And his considerable fortune, his estates, his benefices, everything he owns, will be seized by the Borgia family. This isn't murder for passion. This isn't murder for revenge. This is murder as business. Murder as statecraft. Murder as family tradition. And the Borgias have perfected it. If you're interested in Vatican archives, diplomatic letters intercepted by Venetian spies, and modern forensic analysis of exhumed Renaissance remains, don't forget to subscribe. Every view helps us investigate the dark corners of history where power and poison intersected. Now let's return to that villa, because the cardinal is feeling dizzy, and what the Borgias did with poison goes far beyond simple assassination. To understand the Borgias, you need to understand Renaissance Italy in 1492. The year Rodrigo Borgia became Pope Alexander VI. This was not a spiritual ascension. This was a hostile takeover. Rodrigo Borgia was Spanish by birth, from the Kingdom of Valencia. He had come to Rome decades earlier, risen through the church hierarchy through family connections, bribery, and ruthless political maneuvering. When the previous pope died, Rodrigo wanted the position, needed it, craved it with an obsession that bordered on madness. According to Venetian ambassador Paolo Capello, whose dispatches from 1492 still exist in the Venetian state archives, Rodrigo spent a fortune bribing cardinals to vote for him in the papal conclave. He promised land, titles, money, political appointments, whatever each cardinal wanted most. He delivered mule trains loaded with silver to their residences, made deals, made threats, made promises he had no intention of keeping. And it worked. On August 11, 1492, Rodrigo Borgia became Pope Alexander VI, one of the most corrupt men ever to hold the position, and he brought his family with him into power. His children. Rodrigo had many children. Despite being a cardinal, despite taking vows of celibacy, he had maintained multiple mistresses and fathered at least 7 acknowledged children. The most important were Cesare and Lucrezia. Cesare, his son, brilliant, ruthless, ambitious. Lucrezia, his daughter, beautiful, intelligent, and far more politically astute than history often credits. Alexander made Cesare a cardinal at age 18, gave Lucrezia advantageous marriages to forge political alliances, and together, the Borgia family set about consolidating power in a Rome that was essentially a criminal enterprise wearing religious vestments. But power in Renaissance Italy required money, constant money, to pay armies, to bribe allies, to maintain the Vatican's extravagant lifestyle. And the Borgias discovered a lucrative source of income. Wealthy cardinals who died left their estates to the church, or more specifically, to the Pope. All their land, all their money, all their possessions. If a cardinal died without legitimate heirs, and cardinals weren't supposed to have legitimate heirs, everything went to the Vatican. The Borgias realized something simple and terrible. They could accelerate this process. According to multiple contemporary sources, including the diary of Johannes Burchard, the papal master of ceremonies who worked directly in the Vatican from 1483 to 1506 and kept meticulous records, the Borgias began systematically poisoning wealthy cardinals. They would invite them to dinners, offer partnerships, propose alliances, and then quietly, efficiently kill them. The poison they used was called La Cantarella, the little song. The name itself is chilling, a euphemism for something so deadly that speaking its true nature was considered dangerous. What exactly was La Cantarella? Historians and toxicologists have debated this for centuries. The recipe was a carefully guarded Borgia family secret, but based on symptoms described in contemporary accounts and modern forensic analysis of remains from suspected Borgia victims, experts believe La Cantarella was likely a compound poison, a mixture of arsenic trioxide, white arsenic as a base, combined with phosphorus extracted from decaying organic matter, and possibly other toxic compounds. The arsenic provided the killing mechanism. Acute arsenic poisoning causes vomiting, diarrhea, abdominal pain, and eventually organ failure. Death usually occurred within 12 to 24 hours after a sufficient dose, but the Borgias added sophistication. They could vary the dosage to control the speed of death. A large dose killed quickly, hours. A smaller dose killed slowly, days or weeks, allowing the death to appear more natural. The phosphorus added a particularly gruesome element. According to accounts from the time, some Borgia victims emitted a faint glow in the darkness before death. Phosphorus compounds can cause chemiluminescence, a ghostly luminescence that terrified observers and added to the supernatural reputation of Borgia poisons. The poison was reportedly prepared by grinding white arsenic into extremely fine powder, mixing it with phosphorus extract and other compounds in precise ratios, then dissolving it in wine or water to create a clear, tasteless, odorless liquid. This liquid could be stored in hollow rings, like the one Caesar wore, or in specially constructed wine decanters with hidden compartments, or even in the hollow spaces of ornate serving utensils. The delivery methods were ingenious. Sometimes the poison was added to wine before serving. Sometimes it was applied to the rim of a cup, so only the person drinking from that specific cup would ingest it. Sometimes it was mixed into food, though this was riskier as taste could be affected. The most elegant method was the ring. Cesare Borgia's poisoner ring, described by multiple contemporary sources though no authenticated example survives, allegedly had a hollow chamber behind an ornamental stone. A tiny spring mechanism inside released the contents when pressure was applied. Cesare would lean forward during conversation, gesturing with his hands as any animated Italian might. His hand would pass over his guest's wine cup. An imperceptible press of the ring. A single drop would fall. Invisible, untraceable, deadly. The guest would drink, thank Cesare for his hospitality, return home, within hours fall ill, by the next day dead. And the Borgia family would seize the victim's assets. This happened over and over, according to Italian historian Francesco Guicciardini. Writing in Historia d'Italia between 1537 and 1540, based on contemporary documents and personal knowledge, several cardinals died under suspicious circumstances during Alexander VI's papacy. Cardinal Orsini in 1503, Cardinal Michel in 1503, Cardinal Casanova in 1503. A cluster of deaths, all wealthy men, all dying after dining with the Borgias, all leaving their fortunes to the Vatican, all showing similar symptoms. violent illness, rapid decline, death within days. Johannes Burchard's diary entries from this period are chilling in their matter-of-fact tone. He records the deaths like bookkeeping. August 11th, Cardinal Orsini died after a brief illness. His estate valued at 30,000 ducats, transferred to papal treasury. September 18th, Cardinal Michel died suddenly. Estate valued at 45,000 ducats, transferred to papal treasury. He never explicitly states poison, but the pattern is unmistakable. Wealthy cardinal, dinner with Borgias, death, seizure of assets. This was systematic. This was planned. This was the Borgia family business model. But here's what makes it even more disturbing. They didn't just poison enemies. They poisoned anyone who had something they wanted. Allies, friends, even family members. Lucrezia Borgia's second husband, Alfonso of Aragon, was murdered in 1500. Not with poison, but with a knife on Caesar's orders. Why? Because the political alliance was no longer useful. Alfonso had outlived his value. He had to go. Lucrezia reportedly wept, but she didn't intervene. Couldn't intervene. She was a Borgia. Family loyalty meant everything. And family loyalty meant accepting that sometimes people had to die. For the family, for power, for money. The Borgias poisoned so frequently that it became common knowledge in Rome. Ambassadors sent warnings to their governments. Do not dine with the Pope. Do not accept wine from Cesare Borgia. Do not trust any food prepared in the Vatican. A letter from the Terrorized ambassador in 1503, preserved in the Este family archives in Medina, explicitly states that all diplomats in Rome are taking precautions. Many bring their own food to papal dinners. Others employ food tasters. Some simply refuse all invitations. The paranoia was justified, because the Borgias were not careful about collateral damage. In 1503, according to multiple sources including Burchard and Guicciardini, Alexander VI and Cesare attended a dinner at the villa of Cardinal Adriano Castellesi. This was the dinner that began our story. The plan was to poison the cardinal and seize his wealth. But something went wrong. Accounts differ on the exact details. Some sources claim the wrong wine pitcher was used, that the poisoned wine intended for the cardinal was accidentally served to the Pope himself. Others suggest a servant mixed up the cups. Others claim it was divine justice. Whatever the cause, both Alexander VI and Cesare Borgia were poisoned with their own Cantarella. Alexander was 72 years old. The poison hit him hard. Within hours he was violently ill, vomiting, convulsing, delirious. His physicians tried everything. Bloodletting, purgatives, herbal remedies. Nothing worked. On August 18, 1503, Pope Alexander VI died in agony. His body reportedly turned black and swelled grotesquely. Witnesses said his face became so distorted he was unrecognizable, that his corpse emitted foul odors and showed signs of rapid decomposition. These symptoms are consistent with acute arsenic poisoning combined with the summer heat. Cesare also became ill, desperately ill. But he was younger, stronger. He survived, though accounts suggest he was never quite the same afterward. His health remained compromised, his power diminished. Without his father's protection, without the papal position, Cesare Borgia's influence collapsed rapidly. Within 3 years, he was dead, killed in battle in Spain at age 31. Some historians speculate the poison permanently damaged his health, made him vulnerable, contributed to his early death. Lucrezia survived. She had married Alfonso d'Este, Duke of Ferrara, in 1502. After her father's death, she withdrew from Roman politics, devoted herself to patronage of the arts, became by most accounts a model duchess. She died in 1519 at age 39, possibly from complications of childbirth. Whether she ever used poison herself remains debated. Some sources suggest she did. Others argue she was merely a pawn in her father and brother's schemes. The truth is, probably somewhere between. She knew. She benefited. Whether she actively participated or simply chose not to interfere, she was complicit in the Borgia family business. And that business was poison. After the Borgia papacy ended, investigations began. The new pope, Julius II, ordered inquiries into the deaths during Alexander's reign. But evidence was hard to find. Testimony was unreliable. Witnesses were either dead or too terrified to speak. The Borgia family had been careful. They left few traces. No written recipes for la Cantarella have ever been definitively found. If they existed, they were destroyed. The poison rings, the special decanters, the hidden mechanisms, all disappeared, either taken by the Borgia family when they fled Rome, or destroyed to eliminate evidence. We know about them only through descriptions in letters and chronicles, but the reputation remained. For centuries, the name Borgia became synonymous with poison, with corruption, with the darkest aspects of Renaissance power politics. They became legendary villains, characters in operas and novels and plays. The poisoning pope and his murderous children. Yet, here's what modern historians emphasize. The Borgias weren't unique. They were just particularly good at something many Renaissance families practiced. Poison was common in 15th and 16th century Italy. The Medicis used it, the Sforces used it, the Orsinists used it. Political assassination through poisoning was almost routine. The Borgias simply systematized it, turned it into a reliable income stream, made it an instrument of papal policy. And they did it on a scale that shocked even a society accustomed to poisoning. Forensic archaeologists have occasionally examined remains from this period. In 2003, researchers led by Spanish archaeologist Josep Luis Barona requested permission to exhume Pope Alexander VI's remains from his tomb in Rome. Permission was denied by the Vatican, but earlier analysis conducted in the 19th century noted unusual preservation of bone tissue, discoloration consistent with heavy metal exposure. These findings are suggestive but not conclusive. Arsenic can be absorbed into bone and remain detectable for centuries, but contamination from burial environment is also possible. Without modern forensic testing, which the Vatican has not permitted, we cannot definitively prove Alexander VI died from arsenic poisoning. But the circumstantial evidence is overwhelming. The symptoms described in contemporary accounts match arsenic poisoning. The timing matches the planned poisoning of Cardinal Castellesi. Multiple independent sources report the same story. The Borgias died from their own poison, and there's a certain poetic justice in that. The family that killed so many with La Cantarella was ultimately destroyed by it. Cesare and Alexander, poisoned at the height of their power. Their empire of terror ending in the same agony they had inflicted on dozens of others. But what about the victims? Cardinal Orsini, Cardinal Michiel, Cardinal Casanova, Cardinal Castellesi, if he actually died that night, and all the others whose names don't even appear in records, lesser clergy, servants who knew too much, rivals who had to be eliminated. Each of them had families, had lives, had dreams. They were murdered for money. Their deaths were not passionate crimes, not acts of revenge or fury. They were coldly calculated business transactions. You have something we want. Your life is worth less than your wealth. You will die. We will profit. That calculation, that reduction of human life to financial gain, is what makes the Borgia story truly horrifying. Not the poison itself. Poison is just a tool, but the mindset that wielded it. The ability to invite someone to dinner, share food and wine and conversation, and then watch them die, knowing you caused it, knowing you will take everything they own, and feeling nothing except satisfaction at a successful transaction. That requires a particular kind of moral blindness, a particular capacity for dehumanization, and the Borgias had it, not because they were uniquely evil, but because they were products of a system that rewarded ruthlessness. Renaissance Italy was a place where power mattered more than morality, where results mattered more than methods, where the church itself, supposedly the moral authority of Europe, was run like a criminal enterprise. The Borgias simply played the game better than most. They used the tools available: poison, murder, bribery, intimidation. They did what worked. And for 11 years, it worked brilliantly. They accumulated vast wealth, controlled much of central Italy, made and broke kingdoms, until it didn't work anymore, until they poisoned themselves, until their protection vanished, until history caught up with them. If you're still watching, it's because you understand that power without morality creates monsters. And sometimes those monsters wear holy vestments and speak of God's will. Subscribe to help us remember that corruption, even in sacred institutions, leaves evidence. And that evidence deserves to be examined. The victims of Borgia poison have no memorial, no monument, no place where their deaths are commemorated. They were erased, first by poison, then by seizure of their estates, then by time. But they existed. They mattered. Cardinal Orsini had a family, friends, a life before the Borgias decided he was worth more dead than alive. He died vomiting blood, convulsing, in agony, calling for help that never came, because the people around him knew what had happened, knew who was responsible, knew that speaking up meant becoming the next victim. So they stayed silent, recorded his death as natural causes, looked away, and the Borgias counted his money. That silence is as much a part of this story as the poison itself, because systems of terror require complicity, require people to look away, require witnesses to pretend they see nothing. The Borgias killed dozens, but hundreds more knew about it and did nothing. Priests, cardinals, servants, guards, diplomats, they all knew. And they all chose silence. Because speaking up was dangerous, because the Borgias had power, because sometimes survival means swallowing your conscience and pretending you don't see the bodies. That's the real legacy of the Borgia family. Not just that they poisoned people, but that they created a system where poisoning people was tolerated, where everyone knew and no one acted, where murder became normal, and the only thing unusual was when you accidentally poisoned yourself. Think about that. An entire system, an entire city, an entire institution, knowing that the Pope and his family were murderers, and continuing as if nothing was wrong. That's not unique to Renaissance Rome. That pattern repeats throughout history. Powerful people committing crimes, other people knowing but staying silent. Systems perpetuating evil because speaking up costs too much. The Borgias are gone. Their poison is gone. But the pattern remains. And that's why their story still matters. Not because they were uniquely evil, but because they showed how easily evil can be enabled. How readily people will tolerate horror if the alternative is personal risk. How quickly murder becomes normal when it's profitable and protected. Remember Cardinal Castellesi. Remember Cardinal Orsini. Remember all the names we don't even know. The servants poisoned to keep secrets. The witnesses eliminated to prevent testimony. The inconvenient people who simply disappeared. They were murdered for money by a family that used faith as a weapon and poison as a tool. And they deserve to be remembered, not just as victims, but as evidence. Evidence that power corrupts. That institutions can become criminal. That even the Church, even the Vatican, even the supposed of God on earth, can be run by murderers. If we forget that, if we dismiss the Borgias as ancient history with no relevance to modern life, then we miss the lesson. Power enables evil. Silence perpetuates it, and poison takes many forms. Not just la Cantarella in a wine cup, but corruption in institutions, complicity in systems, the quiet tolerance of injustice because speaking up is dangerous. That's the poison that still kills. And the Borgias are still teaching us how it works.